The Expert, How to Deal with Repatriation.
Repatriated multiple times. So there is no better person to talk with, I would say, no, about it. But what does mean repatriation for you? Like, it's always been like going back to France, or it's also like what you were saying, the feeling of like reverse culture shock, for example. It's a very typical thing to feel, no? Like,
Yeah. I mean, repatriation for me is going, like, if I take a strict definition, I'd see it as going back home. And for me, that means going back to France. More Paris, because that's where as an adult, that's where I've lived the most and really made a home, and where I see myself living. I think reverse culture shock always comes in. I think repatriation is a thing where I've gone through a couple, so I know what to expect. I think there's different stages to it, and I'll go through them. But I very naively, the last time, I thought that as I knew what to expect, it wouldn't happen. That was very naive. I thought I was ready because I knew. But no, it still hits you at some point. And you never know when, but I think it always comes. And it's hard feelings to explain, but there's this piece of whenever you move to a place, you become part of that place, or part of it comes into you, and you always leave with it. I mean, it might be just some habits, the people, the culture, the vibe. There's something there that you adjust to, and you make it your home in a way. And suddenly you're leaving that. So you're leaving a home. There's this detachment, and that it's going to be an empty spot when you go back, when you repatriate. You can't just leave everything. And it's the same thing when you leave your home to go somewhere. You feel nostalgic. You've left something. You're missing out. And you have exactly that on the other way. Even though I wanted to go back, I mean, there's things I loved there. There was people. There was going to the beach. Weather wasn't great, but you live by the sea. There was this atmosphere of work where it was very international. And coming back, I knew, well, it's going to be France. Paris is not necessarily known for its international vibe at work, at least, or diversity. Things have changed. Very much surprised in a good way about Paris in the past 10 years before I left and when I came back. So that's one aspect of, you feel like you're missing out on what's happening back in your own home. And then you come back thinking, oh, everyone's going to be so happy for me to see me, and we're going to pick things up. And yeah, people are happy to see you, but they're still living their life. You think you're sort of going to be the star for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Of, yay, I'm back, welcome back. There's going to be a party waiting. No, unless you go pick your phone, call them, and arrange for everything, it's not gonna happen. I think that's hard. It's hard on the ego of, you're happy to see them. You think, oh, I've missed them, and I'm gonna go back to, we're gonna have our rituals of, having coffee, I don't know, going out for dinner, whatever. But you haven't been there for X many of years, so they've just made their new rituals or different ones, and they've made them without you. And so you have to sort of make a statement to get back in, and also find a sync where both of you have evolved, maybe expecting different things, have lived different things where you weren't there for each other necessarily. And it's, how do you make things work again and adjust? And I think this can be different at different stages of life. I mean, when I moved back to Paris after Tokyo, I was a student. I think it was very different. You make friends very, very quickly, and everyone's a little bit in that mood of going out. Coming back in my 30s, I came back, everyone was getting married or having children. So suddenly you're coming back, you're the girl that was living her, paid Erasmus, you're in a completely different way of life. So different stages of life, you're going to have different reverse culture shock, I think.
Definitely, of course.
But there's always going to be that thing of, finding the new balance, and also finding that mindset. You were people who were living the same things as you, who were going through the same challenges. And when you come back, they haven't gone through the same things. And for them, it's a little bit of, well, you're back. You wanted to be back. But they don't understand that you've left something and that you might be missing also something else.
You said also something very interesting, and it's that when you are outside for some years, you live for some years, things change. And a lot of people expect to everything be
To
how
be the
they
same.
left it, no? And it's not, it's never like this, because not even the city you said about Paris, for example, it changed. So, but also the people. Have it happened to you that someone who was like close to you or a friend of yours, and it passes the years, and when you come back, you are like, okay, we don't have anything in common again now anymore, and then you lose a friendship because of this, for example?
I don't know if I have a real. I think probably. I mean, I think it's just that the friendship changes. Well, yeah, I wouldn't say I lost a friend, but it's just, I think we don't have necessarily the same connection, and we're not expecting the same things. And I think you have to be willing to accept that. You might still be there for each other, but maybe not for the same things, and maybe with a different degree, and you won't be there for the same things as it was as previously.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a lot also of meeting new people involved in it, or like, have you passed through a way of like, okay, saying, okay, relations are not as it was anymore, I need to get new people around?
Yeah, build a new relation, build a new circle. Yes, completely, especially coming back this time. And I think that was a big focus for me, specifically when you're an adult and you're in the workplace, where you're at an age where it's harder to make friends. You don't meet as many people as you would when you're a student or when you're a kid. And it takes longer to build relationships because people are busy. You know, they're working, they maybe have a family. And so it's, how do you make new friends and go find those people that you want to be connected with, that are maybe more international, or who have lived abroad and will be in the same type of mindset. And so I think I was a bit more prepared and worked a lot more on this. Not immediately, because obviously there was COVID, and it took me a year of actually finding a job and really making the move back to Paris. And so then you start building. So everything was a bit more spread out because the context was so peculiar. But things I have done and that I still work on, like, it's a constant thing, I think, for me now. And for example, I joined a company that's French but very international. So there were foreigners, there were expats from Sweden, America, in my company. That was one thing. At some point, I spent a couple of months in a co-living, and that was a good way to meet people that were working, that were in the same age bracket. A lot of them were internationals, and I maybe didn't make that many connections, but I made one or two that were really meaningful, and that we really built on that relationship and became friends and went out to, we explored the whole city in terms of concerts or restaurants, and
that's what
that
counts.
Great.
At the 30s, that's what counts.
Yeah,
it's not about the quantity; it's about the quality.
No, definitely not. Exactly. And I knew it was a person who wasn't, just passing through, because that was the thing in the co-living. You have a lot of people who come say, "Oh, I'm here for 2 months." You know what? I'm not going to bother. I'm not. It's sad to say, but when you're in a city and you want to live there, and I had interviewed a woman, expat woman, who told me, I made the mistake the first few years of making friends with people who were only staying 1 year. You build so much, and then suddenly they're gone. The first question is, how long are you staying? If you're not staying 3 years, I don't want to hear about it.
The typical expat dilemma of like everyone leaving you, and you're okay every 2 years doing new circle of
I
friends.
Have to start again.
Gosh. Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, but so finding the right people, finding people who are staying, And I've recently discovered an app, Garam, which it's sort of a meetup, but it's more of a high level meetup with activities like going to the opera, going to this cool restaurant or new bar and things like that, where anyone can host or you pay to be able to attend other things. And it's actually full of internationals and was built by 2 former expats. You say, well, it's hard to meet people and explore the city. And so this, I feel, is a good way to also meet new people, internationals, and discover the city. I wouldn't say that I've really like made friends yet through it. Haven't been very active on it, but it's just finding those little things that are not necessarily like a super big focus, but once in a while of saying, well, I want to go out, I want to meet people, maybe once a month or once every 2 months. It just brings up brings something fresh and something new. Yeah,
with an activity behind, because if it's meetups for just drinking, we all know how it ends. So it's not the best places. Actually, it's not meaningful. Connections are not really happening. So it's a French app, or it's do you know if it works in other places, or?
So they've opened up London and New York.
Okay.
Maybe Berlin. I'm not sure.
How is it called?
Carom. Carom.
Okay, check it out. All the listeners can check it out if you are one of the cities that it's active.
It's a cool way to discover the secrets of the city also. And even myself living in Paris for quite a few years, there's things you discover of like new restaurants or even places or big events that happen. I think they probably have subscriptions to the opera or something, and so they give access to it. It's usually quite expensive activities. That's the only thing I would say.
If you liked this short video out of the full episode, you can find the link to it around here and in the description below. Of course, if you are also interested in checking out other episodes, please subscribe and like.